What's a Greek? Greece and Greeks. Where is Greece? Who are the Greek people? Nowadays, it's easy to answer these questions. Any encyclopedia or atlas shows where Greece is, what borders define it, and which islands in the Mediterranean Sea are Greek and which are part of Turkey or Italy or someplace else. And it's easy enough to say who the Greek people are. They're the citizens of Greece. But it would have been hard to answer those questions 2,500 years ago. At that time, there was no such country as Greece, and the people who lived in what we now call Greece didn't consider that they all lived in the same country. They lived in communities that governed themselves without consulting each other. Sometimes they were at war with each other, and sometimes they formed alliances, but they were separate and independent. And if there was no such country as Greece, who were the Greeks? Basically, when we say the ancient Greeks, we mean the people who lived near the Mediterranean Sea between about 2000 BCE and 500 CE, and who spoke Greek, a member of the family of languages that we now call Indo-European. But since it takes too long to write the people who spoke Greek, from now on, we'll just call them the Greeks. The Greeks had more than just their Indo-European heritage and their language in common. They also shared many traditions and customs. They sometimes got together for sporting events and other festivals. It's difficult to go further than that, or even to define where exactly the Greeks lived, since they traveled and set up colonies in what are now other countries. Some of these colonies lasted for centuries, but some were unsuccessful, and the Greeks in them died or came home in a short time. One other element that united the Greeks was their religion. In the northern part of what is now Greece stands a mountain so high, 9,573 feet, or 2,918 meters, that visitors often can't see the top of it, through the mist that cloaks its sides. The beautiful Mount Olympus looks mysterious, and a modern tourist driving past can easily see why the Greeks thought that something special must be at its peak. They thought that the top of the mountain was the home of their gods. The Greeks believed that gods walked the earth along with people. They were different from people in that they could never die, and they had magical powers. But they also loved and hated, got angry, made peace, and performed kind deeds, and some foolish ones. Behaved a lot like human beings, in fact. And just like humans, they had to live someplace. What could be a better home for them than a mountain that stretched so high that it seemed to be a halfway point between the heavens and the earth? If the Greek gods decided to use their extra sharp eyes to look over the whole area filled with people who believed in and worshipped them, what would they see? They'd see a large body of water with many islands, some so tiny that a person could easily swim around them, and some so large that it would take days to walk across them. They'd see lands curving into and out of this sea, with mountains that had been formed by volcanoes. The land that was the home of the people who called themselves Hellenes, and whom we now call the ancient Greeks, originally was a small area bordering the Aegean Sea and some islands near that land. Eventually, the Greeks occupied territory that stretched from Spain in the west to what is now Turkey and eventually even India in the east. The land explains a lot about the Greeks and their way of life. The mountains aren't particularly high, but they cover 4/5 of the Greek mainland. This is one reason why the Greeks didn't feel united with each other. In the earliest days of Greek civilization, there weren't even any horses. It took days or weeks to get from one area to another on foot, so it would have been difficult to feel like a fellow citizen with someone from a different place. Messengers would take a long time to carry word from one place to another and could get lost or even killed on their way, so communication was slow and uncertain. The mountains defined other things about the Greeks. For example, olives and grapes grow well on their slopes, but wheat and other grains need a different kind of soil and flatter land for plowing. Sheep, goats, and pigs can thrive in areas that are too steep for cows and other large animals.